Real Country 1430 AM and 107.3 FM WRDN. I'm Brian Winnikins, and this is the WRDN Morning Farm Report. And joining us this morning, Chad Vincent with Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. Going to get an update on some of the things Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin is doing for 2024. Our video on our YouTube channel being brought to you in part by the Wisconsin Soybean Marketing Board. Our Newsmaker segment is also being brought to you in part by the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association, Wisconsin Farmers Union, Synergy Co-op, Osteoplastics, Compeer Financial, the Animal Wellness Center of Buffalo Valley, Annabis Silo, and Alcivia Co-op. Chad, well, we wrapped up 2023 on kind of a high note with a lot of things with Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin going on. What are some of the things that Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin has plans for 2024?
And I tell you, Brian, it's going to be a busy, busy year. We're already off and running. On the sales and demand side, we've got our 5 regional managers that are spread out across the country, working with the top 125 retailers in the country. So we're going to continue to try and make sure that we continue to have, our cheese in 99% of the grocery stores out there. We have 3 major events that will be happening during the year in the key dairy and cheese buying seasons, which will be running in like 5,000 to 7,000 stores each. So major programs, really good ways of moving volume and getting distribution. We have a number of buyer's missions already on the books and starting. So in the bad weather seasons, January, February, early March, and then after like October, we do virtual buyer missions where we get like the Kroger buyer, which is like their time is gold. It's impossible to get them. We get them for like 2 hours over 3 days, and we hook them up with dairy companies, and they're able to. So a lot of the companies that don't have any access to these buyers get access to them. They sell their products. They move the volume, and we continue to build that presence of Wisconsin cheese across the U.S.
How important is that domestic demand, that U.S. demand for Wisconsin dairy farmers in regards to cheese? Because there's a lot of new cheese processing starting to come up online in other states across the country. We're going to have more cheese here coming up down the road, which is going to make it even more critical to get this cheese moved.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think Brian, one of the critical components we have is that, a while ago, some really smart people decided that Wisconsin, with the great milk we have and the innovation and Center for Dairy Research, we need to be more innovative rather than commodity, right? Because we're not going to, with the new plants coming online, the commodity is going to be a tough world to play. Block and barrel, as low, how cheap can you get it to the quarter penny? We make half the country's specialty cheese, and really that's where we're going to rock and roll and where we continue to grow. So Wisconsin cheese's growth has outpaced the industry growth at retail by a good 3 to 5% every year for the last 5 years. So we're in good shape there. On the other side then is the export side, where we're really starting to ramp up our export dealings. And similar to the U.S. side, we have buyer missions. So we're bringing in people from Asia, Latin America, Mexico, Middle East, Canada, and getting vetted buyers of major commodity, of major volumes at grocery stores across the country, across the globe, bringing them here. We get them on a farm. We get them to see what Wisconsin is and why Wisconsin is America's dairyland. And we're starting to sell a lot of product. Last year, I think we sold to probably over 50 different countries.
Wow. Talking with Chad Vincent, CEO of Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin this morning. So those buyer missions, are you working, when you bring in those foreign buyers, are you working as well with the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture? I know that them and the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, they've received some money from the state to try and increase agriculture exports. So is that another way that you can work together to move some of that product?
Absolutely. It's a tight-knit community here, Brian. We work with WEDC. We work with DATCAP, Department of Ag here, and we also work with U.S. Dairy Export Council, and really anybody else that we can work with to help get the vetted buyers here as economically and with as most impact as possible. We've actually earned, Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin has actually earned $100,000 grants over the last 3 years from the state to work on exports and to bring these things together. So, we'll be at trade shows in Latin America, Asia, and Middle East with Department of Ag and with US DEC. So it's really, we're all working together. We're just making sure that Wisconsin's at the table.
Talking with Chad Vincent with the Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin this morning about some of the plans for 2024. Chad, I know Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin, we do a lot of cheese because that is Wisconsin's bread and butter, but there's the whey part of it. There's some of these
Absolutely.
other specialty dairy products as well that are fluid products. Is
Yeah.
Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin trying to work on those products too?
Absolutely. So, Center for Dairy Research, the Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin decades ago really helped found Center for Dairy Research, and it's now the premier dairy research facility on the planet. And we have a new building now, and new facilities and new capabilities, which once again is awesome because the dairy farmers didn't pay for any of it. It was paid by the processors put in like 25, 30 million. The state put in 30 million, and we now have this facility. And the cool thing about this facility is that we now have one of the few places on the planet where people can run test pilots for aseptic or uh, extended life milk. So there's a new line that's just now gone in, as well as they have a drying tower. So now they're able to do the science and get us really to be on the cutting edge of the dry powdered side. So when you have cheese and you have whey, there's those byproducts, and they're vital for nutrition around the planet, but they're also vital for that extra bit of margin and that extra bit of volume. Anywhere we can squeeze money out of these products and out of the milk, it's gold.
And I've said this before, it's amazing because when I was growing up, my uncle just outside of the Green Bay area was spreading whey on his field.
Right.
Not anymore. That's a valuable commodity.
It used to be a cost. It used to be, how do I get rid of this stuff, and how do I manage it? And now it's like, how do I commoditize it? Or how do I make money on this thing and make it more valuable for the farmers?
Talking with Chad Vincent with Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. Well, I can't let you go without talking about for 2024, of course, June Dairy Month or National Dairy Month. I always still call it June Dairy Month. I think I'm always going to call it that. But this is where the local dairy promotion committees they highlight the dairy industry in Wisconsin to everyone that lives in towns and cities across the state. And Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin helps out those local committees, right?
Without a doubt, June is the pinnacle month for us. I mean, it's the best month. June, and it is June Dairy Month, right? It is, for us, it's always June Dairy Month. We help with the 70 plus different farm breakfast or farm events that happen across the state. We also, Brian, we spend a lot of time training farmers and getting farmers on camera in local news across the state. I mean, last year I think we had over like 120 different interviews, and they get on there. So we're able to get them in front of their local communities and across statewide, telling about why dairy is important, how impactful it is for the local community, how well they're doing on treating the land, because you know what? They all live on this land, and they're doing their best to make it even better for the next generation. So, we generated like $4 or $5 million worth of media last year alone on having them get in front of cameras and tell their stories. It's really, to me, that's really the most important part of June Dairy Month. On the farm breakfast side, we also have our website at Dairy Farmers at WisconsinDairy.com, and it directs everybody to where the events are, the maps, what's going on, how to get there, how to park, all that kind of stuff. So it's a really wonderful time.
And some of these local dairy promotion committees that really do some unique things. I know Pepin County during the pandemic had a drive-through dairy breakfast.
Yeah.
And this year, Dunn County is going to do a dairy brunch. And that's what makes these fun as well.
Yeah, I mean, they'll get 1,000 some of these places get 5,000-7,000 consumers out on a farm, and it's their only exposure to a farm maybe in a decade, right? So getting people out, we work really hard to get people out to these events because they're really cool, and people look around and go, wow, this isn't necessarily what I'm always hearing on the news. This is pretty cool.
That is Chad Vincent. He is with the Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin. He's the CEO. This is the WRDN Morning